Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back with part 3 of some of the best looking games on Android and iOS. If you missed part 1 and 2, I highly recommend that you go ahead and check them out. We've already covered over 10 games with some of the best looking graphics on the mobile platform. So if you missed those, I highly recommend you go and check it out. That way you guys can see what games made the first couple of videos. Now, before we get into the list for this specific video, I do want to mention, like we always do, that this is subjective and it is my own personal preference. If you don't see a game on here that you would like to see included in a potential part 4 of this series, then make sure you guys go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. But without any further delay, kicking off the list at number 1, we have Life After. Now, Life After is a very unique MMORPG on the mobile platform. It's essentially a zombie survival game mixed with MMORPG elements, so you do have that MMO aspect, but then at the end of the day, it still is a zombie survival experience. It's a very unique title, and we haven't seen too many games like this just yet. Even though it is a little bit older and it has been out on the mobile platform for many years now, it's still one of the best looking games on the platform, especially if you have a higher end device and you can play this on the higher settings. Now, a couple of things to note about Life After is, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there is controller support. I wasn't able to get it working myself, so I'm assuming that there isn't any official controller support in this game. However, there is a PC version of this game, so if you did want to play with a mouse and keyboard, you could actually play the PC version of the game. Apparently, you can also sort of cross-play on the same account when it comes to PC and iOS or PC and Android. However, you cannot crossplay between Android and iOS. Once you start your profile on one of those platforms, you have to stay on there. And the last thing we want to mention is that because it is technically an MMORPG and an open world one at that, it is a rather bigger game, meaning that you're going to need about 10 to 15 gigabytes of free space in order to download the full HD version of the game. Coming in at number 2, we have none other than Racing Master. Now, Racing Master is one of the more highly anticipated racing games that's come out on the mobile platform in the last couple of years. It has some of the best looking graphics I think I've ever seen on a mobile game, period. Now, the game is not widely available globally, however, NetEase has been doing beta tests in select regions for quite some time now, so it shouldn't be too long until we do get a full global release of Racing Master. Now, unfortunately, even though most racing games do seem to have controller support on mobile, unfortunately, Racing Master doesn't seem to have that controller support just yet. It could eventually come once the game is officially widely available. However, right now, it seems like we're basically going to have to use either the touch controls or the gyro controls in order to maneuver the car. Now, we don't have a specific release date as to when Racing Master will be widely available. However, it still is slated to release sometime in 2022, and they have been holding betas for the last few months now. In fact, last month they went ahead and held a beta in the United States and Canada, so it looks like potentially we will get this game before the end of 2022. Next up, we have NBA 2K22 Arcade Edition. Now, this one's a very interesting one because it's kind of a premium title, but at the same time, it isn't. The reason why it's called Arcade Edition is because it seems to be exclusive to the Apple Arcade subscription, meaning that you will have to pay about $4.99 per month in order to access the Apple Arcade catalog. In that catalog, that's where you will find NBA 2K22. From the information that I could gather, it seems as though they made NBA 2K21 and 2K22 mobile exclusive to the Apple Arcade subscription service, meaning that if you want to play those games, you will have to pay for that Apple subscription. And of course, that also means that it's not available on Android. You're only going to be able to get this on your iOS or iPad OS devices. Still, it's definitely one of the better looking sports games that's available on the mobile platform, and it definitely deserves a spot on this list because of those graphics. It really does look like a console NBA experience. Now, number 4 on this list, we have Dragon Raja. Now, Dragon Raja is a MMORPG that has been available for quite some time, and it still has some of the best graphics in any MMO that's available on Android and iOS. Now, there are a lot of MMOs to choose from on Android and iOS, but in my opinion, this is one of the best ones simply due to the fact that it has some of the best graphics available right now, and on top of that, the gameplay is very good, especially when it comes to the combat. There's frequent events in this game as well, meaning that you're never really going to run out of things to do since this game is continuously updated and continuously supported by the developers. Now, just like we mentioned with Life After, Dragon Raja does have a PC version, meaning that if you want to go ahead and play it on the PC, you could also do that as well. This seems to be a very common theme that's happening with current MMOs on the mobile platform. A lot of these companies seem to be making a also alternative PC version of the game. That way people can continue playing when they're at home on their computer, and then when they leave they can go ahead and continue playing on their mobile device. It's a very interesting thing that we've seen in a few games like Life After, Dragon Raja, and even Genshin Impact, and it's something that I think is really cool, and I hope more games adopt this specific model. Now, unfortunately, it does not seem like there is any controller or mouse and keyboard support on the mobile platform, so you are going to have to play with those touch controls, but it is fairly simple to get used to them, and in my opinion, this game is definitely worth it, especially if you've been looking for an MMORPG with some very solid and in-depth combat. Another thing that separates this MMO from a lot of the other ones are, as you can see, there are full cutscenes that are voice dialogued, meaning that it does give it a little bit more of a premium AAA quality feel to it. It's something that we don't really see nowadays in a lot of mobile MMORPGs, so it definitely is something that does separate this from all of the other ones. And for anyone who may be wondering whether or not this game does feature any type of auto pathing, then yes, it does. I know that's something that a lot of hardcore MMO fans on Android and iOS don't like to see in their games, but unfortunately it looks like most MMOs nowadays include this, and Dragon Raja is one of those MMOs. Still, if you're looking for an MMO with some amazing graphics, awesome combat, and in-depth storytelling, then this is definitely one that I think you need to check out. Now, number 5 on this list, we have none other than Honkai Impact III. Now, this game has some amazing graphics and visual effects, especially if you're a fan of that anime aesthetic. Now, a lot of you may be thinking this game looks very similar to a game that we actually featured in part 2 of this series, which of course was none other than Genshin Impact. Now, the reason why these games look so similar is because they're actually made by the same developer. This game was released in 2016, so it actually came out before Genshin Impact, and so it does have a little bit different gameplay, and the game works a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, that visual aspect is very similar. Now, just like Genshin Impact, this game does have a PC version, so if you would rather play it on the PC, or if you would like to alternate between the PC and mobile versions, you can go ahead and do that. Unlike Genshin Impact, this does not have any type of controller support on both Android and iOS, meaning that you will have to play with the touchscreen controls if you're playing on the mobile platform. And lastly, we have our honorable mention for part 3 of this series, and it is none other than Divinity Original Sin 2. Now, the reason why this game doesn't have a permanent spot on the list and rather is an honorable mention is because it is only available on a very small number of devices. Now, this game originally released on PC and consoles, and it's basically regarded as one of the best RPGs ever made. And eventually, it of course made its way to the mobile platform, however, like we mentioned earlier, only on a select number of devices. It's only available on iPads, and not even every iPad, but rather very specific models. And the reason for this is basically because it is one of the most demanding games on the mobile platform. Now, this game on iPads is a rather expensive game. In fact, it's the most expensive game that we've featured so far in this series. It comes in at $24.99. That is a pretty big price to ask for a mobile game, but at the end of the day, you're getting a lot of value for your money. Not only is this one of the best RPGs ever made, but you also get some really cool features along with it, such as controller support and even a split screen mode, meaning that you can play with multiple people on a single iPad device. If you happen to have one of the newer iPad or iPad Pros and your device is supported for this game, I would definitely recommend checking it out if you've been looking for a console quality RPG on the mobile platform, especially because there's not very many RPGs to begin with. However, if you don't have one of those iPad devices like myself, then unfortunately we basically just have to miss out. But that's going to wrap up part 3 of the best looking games on Android and iOS. Let me know what you guys think about this list down in the comments below, and let me know your guys' suggestions for part 4. But with all of that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.